Oh, hey, this is Ron. I was just listening to some Twelfth Night. And speaking of which, I am going to be doing a little video here for you. I'm going to concentrate on their studio albums, and if I get enough views, I will get the other releases, some of their archive releases, the live CDs. I think I'm missing one or two of them, and the DVDs. Now I do have the Blu-ray of the latest release, which is wonderful. For someone like me in the United States that would never ever see them live here in the United States, because I know it's kind of expensive to get them out here. But enough of that. Let's get to it. Now, the first official studio album is Fact and Fiction. Now, back in 2018, they re-released this, a 3-disc set. We have the studio disc, which is disc 1, all the studio cuts. Disc 2 has live cuts and demos. And disc 3 has covers and interpretations. Right now on my headset, I am listening to disc 3 because I've been very familiar with the studio album. The proper album stops at 9 tracks, and on here, the studio, they added 3 extra tracks. And those ones are Paradise Locked, East of Eden, and a cover of Eleanor Rigby. Now, little bit of history. A lot of people do know this. For those that aren't too familiar with Twelfth Night, they were formed back in 1978 by Andy Revel and Brian DeVolio, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And then over the time, they added in other members of the band. Let's look them up. I know I didn't. Clive Minton on bass. And he also did some keyboards and classical guitar. And then Jeff Mann, the late great Jeff Mann. I would best describe, when I first listened to Fact and Fiction, as almost, it's has bits of new wave, bits of punk, and bits of prog. Now the prog is for the extended pieces. The new wave and punk are for the more shorter pieces. But then they also, on the shorter pieces, they do have a little bit of progressiveness. So it's all of those things mixed up into one. This band, besides another UK band, IQ, are my favorite ones that came out at that time in the neo-prog genre. Those are my favorite. They had the most interesting sounds. I am not discounting the other ones. I'm just saying personal preference. The next studio album came with a bit of a lineup change, with Jeff Mann bowing out, and we get Andy Sears. Now Andy has a different approach to the music than Jeff. Now he was the other main singer in the studio albums. Now they did have several ones on demos. Um, One of them that I was reading about was an American singer named Electra McLeod, which that's a pretty cool name, you gotta admit. Um, they had other ones that just did bits and pieces. I would have to say that the other ones aren't as known. I don't know if they ever went on to do anything else or if this was just one-offs for them and they thought maybe it wasn't for them. I don't know the whole story about that. Again, this is just an overview of their studio albums, not a history. But like I said, Art and Illusion went more, to me personally, went more of the route of the new wave sound. They got away from that punk, almost DIY sound of Fact and Fiction to a more polished sound. Now on this particular one, this album here, it came, was released with 12 bonus tracks. Now this is on a two disc set. First disc is the studio, and I believe the second disc is live, and I think it's just live. It's hard to read, it's very small print, and they don't have anything. I'm looking at some information while I'm talking here. One of the, like I said, they had a couple of songs like the title track, Art and Illusion, First New Day, London Fair. Those one, oh, and Take a Look. Those ones were the, I would say, the more, well actually no, excuse me. There's two versions of Take a Look. There's the long version, and then there's a short version. I believe that's an edit for hopeful play on radio, which unfortunately these type of bands had very few of it because, to be honest, they were a step above what was coming out in the mainstream world. This one took me a little while to get used to, but once I did, it's like, just another side of Twelfth Night. Now the next one up is they call it the Virgin Album. Now this one, obviously, I believe it was released in Virgin Records, I believe. Andy Sears. Now that's the one thing is Andy was on 2 studio albums, whereas unfortunately Jeff was only on 1. This basically continues the sound that was on Art and Illusion, and again it also has rough mixes on here and different kind of mixes here, which is pretty cool. This is a single CD, which was different from the other ones that were double. And this had quite a few good ones on here too, like Last Song and Blue Powdered Monkey. All of the songs seem to be a little bit more on the shorter side, with the exception of another version of Take a Look, which was clocks in over 11 minutes. And so that was the last one with Andy. Then would jump up many years, because that was done in 1986. So we jump up. Let's get over here. We jump up to recent times. Now I'm sorry if I'm kind of blowing it here on the thing, but again, I'm doing this guerrilla style where I don't have editing materials. I'm hoping that this is going to be a little more DIY, like, and I hope the information on here is helps out newcomers to the band. And the final release that they have studio was a 2018 edition of Sequences. Now this had, I like the inside the cover, poppies. Now that's significant to World War One. This song has lyrics of war, and as you can tell on the cover of this, you can see that soldiers going to war. It has the new version, which is nice to hear in a re-recorded modern sound with, let's see who does the vocals. Mark Spencer, who incidentally did the vocals on their live DVD, Blu-ray, I should say, that was recently came out. Now his voice, where Andy's was a little more polished, his is more towards Jeff Mann. And in fact, it's very haunting. It's almost like Mark is channeling Jeff, and when he's singing, I'm not sure if he's actually doing that consciously, but I think subconsciously he's doing that. Jeff is coming forth through him. Mark has his own style. I will not say that he is a clone of Jeff. He was just channeling that energy that Jeff had. Again, I never got to see Twelfth Night when Jeff was in that, because that was in the 80s, early 80s. I was really not into music the way I am now. I really wouldn't have listened to progressive rock back then. It was only until the 90s that I got into progressive rock. But this is the last of the studio albums, and unfortunately, unless something comes up, I do believe when they put out their Blu-ray that was their final show live, so I would have to assume that the band is now over and complete. I got to say, all in all, I do love this band. I revisit the studio albums. I have a few live albums. Once I get, like I said, all the live albums and the videos, the DVD and the I got the Blu-ray and those CDR, the official CDRs that they put out, I can do a part 2. But that really all depends upon how many views I get on this. If I can get over 100 views, you can rest assured there will be a part 2. If not, then we'll leave it here. And if you have any comments, or if I made any mistakes with talking about any of the albums, pronunciations of the band members, please let me know below. I really want to pay tribute to this band because they, like I said, they are one of my favorites of that era. There's them and IQ. Those are the only two that I can really say. I mean, the other ones had better mainstream success. Um, that I do believe that these two should have had, but in some way I'm kind of glad they didn't, because their material wouldn't be the same as what they put out. I'm going to close on, basically, I'm going to put links to their website down below, and links to, I believe they have a Facebook page, and Twitter. I believe they have a Twitter account. I'll have to look that up. But if they do, I'll put them all down in the description bar. And I hope I get some thumbs up. If you do a thumbs down, please comment below the reason why. Please be nice about it, because I'm open for new knowledge. So, in that case, I'm going to let you go and stay tuned in late February for this type of a video of the other band I spoke about on this video, IQ. I'll talk to you soon.